PodcastCoug Season 4, Episode 1.
You're listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, PodcastCoug.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PodcastCoug. I am James Laurie, the PodcastCoug, and you are listening to the PodcastCoug, where all things Cougar football, 30 minutes of Coug Talk, where we're talking about the Pre-Season Power Rankings, the schedule, and our upcoming game against New Mexico State. Hey, everybody, welcome back. So, man, another year of the PodcastCoug. We're in our season 4, the 4th season, right here at the PodcastCoug. Can't believe it. Time flies. We're just cruising by, having fun. It's the Leach era. It's win after win after win after an Apple Cup loss after a win. Are you kidding me? Wow, we're just incredible. This has just been amazing. So here we are. Season, of course, starts for us on Saturday. We're going to recap really quickly the last season. We ended up magical season, of course, 11 wins, 11-2 with our only 2 losses from USC and the Dogs. Most wins ever in a season at Washington State at 11. One-hit wonder, Gardner. Right? Gardner Minshew, game day, finally came to Pullman last October with that amazing, electrifying win over Oregon, and 4 wins a row against the Ducks, and they've got a Washington State problem, right? Oregon has a Washington State problem. We've got a UW problem. The Dogs at, Apple Cup, are you kidding me? Another loss. It's just, you can't take it anymore. We've got to have the law of averages. We've got to have a year here coming up. So, we've also got Utah and Stanford. Looks like every single year, we've got those guys, no problem. So, Leach is the pirate of the Palouse, building up to his name, perfect fit, and showcasing the best logo in college football. In all platforms, and that's Coug football, and that's the Leach era, and that's the Pirate of the Palouse with our showcase, the proud Coug logo, never seen before. We've never been in these levels before, so here we are, always improving and improving always. So we're going to start off the season 4, episode 1, with really the Pac-12 Power Rankings that came out a while ago. Right? This is not my order. This is the Pre-Season Power Rankings from the media, and we're finally going to review the preseason. Here we go against. We're going to start with Oregon State, number 12. Jonathan Smith inherited a mess from Gary Anderson last year, who got that head coaching job, and really it's his alma mater, right? So Jonathan Smith, alma mater's Oregon State. His first season was really tough. Beavs went 2-10, and although Jonathan found some explosive Beavs on offense. Some players, like Jefferson rushed for about 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns. True freshmen, while receivers Hodgins and Bradford combined for 115 receptions, about 1,500 yards. And then, Jake Luton, 6-year senior quarterback, he's back. Defense, the Beavs have 9 starters returning. And so anyway, I feel sorry for the Beaver Nation. They need some love. They need some wins. They need a bowl game, just every once in a while. They've done well in baseball and they've done well in basketball over the years. But great school, great campus, an incredible atmosphere, extraordinary college atmosphere. Unfortunately, for football, they look like the same. So we're going to put them number 12. Of course, the media did that. Right after that is Colorado, of course, number 11. Mike McIntyre, led the Buffs, if you remember, 2016 to the Pac-12 title, but back-to-back losing seasons, ending up costing his job after 6 seasons. So the Buffs started 5-0 last year. and closed the season on a 7-game losing streak. Although it's not really a Bear Cup board, but Mel Tucker is the new coach. He inherits a proven starting quarterback, Steven Montez, right? And he's got some good receivers, Chenault, and but lots of work to be done on the defense. They've got middle linebacker Landman and defensive end Johnson, 2 players that are really good guys, but not much else defensive-wise. Schedule-wise, Oregon, Washington State, and Utah are all on the road. It's not going to be easy for the Buffaloes. So, again, they are at number 11. UCLA is number 10 coming into the second season of Chip Kelly. Bruins face Cincinnati, a team they beat in L.A. last year. And then they're hosting San Diego State, Oklahoma in weeks 2 and 3. Might be a challenging non-con schedule this year for the Bruins. They've got some difficult Pac-12 games. Washington State, Stanford, Utah, and USC all on the road. So their road games are going to be extremely challenging. Last season, Chip was forced to play a lot of inexperienced guys, and, here we are. The Bruins I can't remember the last time the Bruins and the Trojans are really in the middle of the Pac-12, just hanging in there, not really performing like they usually do over the last several decades. So number 9, Arizona, Kevin Sumlin and Khalil Tate seem to be a good match, but Arizona had a disappointing year last year. Kevin changed some things on offense, limiting to Tate's ability as a runner, and then Tate hurt his ankle. And so the Wildcats started out, 3-5, but they had a chance to reach a bowl against Arizona State, only to blow a 40-21 third quarter lead, and then they lost 41-40 in a nail biter. Terrible way to end the season. And Khalil Tate, what's happened to him, man? Remember his freshman year? He was unstoppable. He ran over the Cougs with his running ability. Khalil Tate is back. They lost in Honolulu to the Rainbows, right, in Hawaii. Disappointing opening loss last Saturday for Arizona. They're kind of in that rebuilding mode. Khalil Tate is back. We'll see what happens. Berkeley, the Cal Bears, complete mess offensively last year. They turned the ball over 31 times, more than any team in the nation. Berkeley had, they had a bad performance in the Cheez-It Bowl. 17-7 loss against TCU, ranked 15th nationally, actually, in total defense, 22nd in scoring defense, just allowing 20 points per game. We've always played tough against Berkeley, against Cal, whether it's in Pullman or Berkeley. Cal's always been tough for us. But, they've got some guys coming back. Middle linebacker, Evan Weaver, he had 159 tackles. Ridiculous, right? So expect Berkeley to be okay this year. We'll see, right? Arizona State, a lot of expectations for Arizona State after they hired Herm Edwards. But they some nice moments last year. They had upsets over Michigan State and Utah. The comeback win against that Arizona game right in the fourth quarter. Herm's going to have a true freshman at quarterback. Guy's name is Jaden Daniels. He's a top 100 recruit. So Arizona State, they've got some, again, good guys, some caliber players this year. We're going to see what happens. USC, number 6. USC finished a losing record for the first time in 19 years. Amazing. USC, Clay Helton back for one more season, unless he pulls out a huge year. Trojans started the year 4-2, and then they lost the last 6 games, and they kept Clay Helton. So a lot of guys screaming for Clay's head, but he's back for one more year. I think the Trojans, for the most part, they're just loaded up with talent, just like Oregon. I don't know if you want to call them playing soft. Who knows? They've got a former 5-star recruit quarterback, JT Daniels. So they got some good receivers in Pittman and Brown and Vaughn. Those guys are all back. Graham Harrell, their coordinator. Thank you, Mr. Leach. So they're going to be doing some air raid stuff at USC, thanks to Graham Harrell and all of his experience. So look for some air raid from USC on the Trojans this year. Of course, they've got Utah at home. Then they've got Washington and Notre Dame on the road. So they also play BYU this year. And here we are at Washington State, number 5. These are preseason picks, and we always keep, we're finding ways to win. We win. Last year, Gardner lit them up, Pac-12, and our defense, wasn't too bad leading the Cougs. We had a surprising 11-win season. Who would have thought? Most of us predicted 7 or 8, right? So at best, 8 wins last year, okay? Nobody predicted 11 wins. So here we are. 5th year Anthony Gordo. I am so excited to see Gordo play on Saturday. Can't wait. He's been working so hard, beat out Gubrud, right? So, 3 years waiting, right? He's Minshew's backup last year, won the starting job over Gage Gubrud, right? So, Gage is a good guy, big twat. He's got all those Big Sky records that he set, but I'm really, really happy to see Anthony Gordon. The guy's got an arm, right? We haven't seen an arm like Andy's very accurate. We have not seen an arm since Ryan Leaf. So this guy's a gunner. He's just going to throw it. I mean, the guy is accurate, quick release, knows his reads, can do everything. Been waiting for 3 years for this job. Couldn't be a better candidate. Just really, really super excited. On defense, the Cougs struggled, on the run last year, losing Pallur and Jalen Thompson obviously isn't going to help, but, we'll see what happens. Borgie is ready. We're going to travel to Utah, Oregon, and Washington this year as road games, no question about it. We got to get back to the a shot at the North Division. And so, let's take that Apple Cup. It cannot continue. We've got to beat Montlake. Let's not make it a big deal and choke, but, it could be our year. Stanford, number 4. They had a pretty much underwhelming season last year. The Cardinals started out 4-0 and then lost the next 5, and then they won, 5 straight. So, Cardinals, we've been beating them every year. They're playing Northwestern on their schedule, UCF, and Notre Dame as non-conference games. So David Shaw he's got returning KJ Costello at quarterback. They've got a great left tackle in Little, and they got a tight end in Parkinson. They've got great guys at Stanford. So David Shaw knows what he's doing. Then we got Peterson at the Huskies at Montlake, coming off of a Pac-12 title. The Dogs, they're replacing, of course, Myles Gaskin. They're replacing, Browning at quarterback. They've got a 5-star quarterback, Jacob Eason. Now, Eason is the real deal, guys. He is good. He beat out Jake Hayner. And so look for some, Jacob Eason is all that he's going to be. I think he's going to be really good and everything. So they've got some great, obviously they're loaded with talent. Myles Gaskin is out. They've got Salvin Ahmed that's stepping in. He did really well the last couple of years. He had a breakout year last year. So on the other side of the ball, the Huskies have, they had 5 NFL draft choices to replace. Unfortunately, the Dogs have a really good home schedule. So they got Oregon, Washington State, Utah, and USC all at home. Non-cons, they're starting out with Eastern Washington on Saturday. And so don't be surprised if the Dogs get back to that North title against the Cougs. Would not be surprised if we're going into Seattle with the North title on the line. And we got Utah, number 2. They finally won its Pac-12 title South last year as a favorite. They won the league outright. The Utes have, star seniors at quarterback Tyler Huntley, and then, running back Zach Moss. So they've got a good receiver at Covey. So, Utah is going to be loaded up and back. They've got great guys again. Oregon now this is where all the hype is with the Ducks overall. They've got really, really good guys on computer, if on paper, whatever you want to say. So Oregon's got some really good guys. Justin Herbert, of course, quarterback. And then they've got Verdell and Dye back and running back. They've got some really good, good receivers, a really good offensive line at the Ducks. Their defense is loaded. Troy Dye had 115 tackles last year. So they got a new defensive coordinator coming in from Boise State. And so, the media really likes, Mario Cristobal's team, as the best team in the conference. And, they're now Saturday, it's against Auburn. I've got a family member who is an Auburn guy, and I'm going to say go War Eagle, right? Go War Eagle. Now, the game that Oregon is playing at Auburn Saturday is at 4:30. Our game, of course, is at 7 p.m. There's going to be a little overlapping. So if you want to have catch the Oregon game, whether you're rooting for a Pac-12 team or you're going for the War Eagle, Auburn, which I am, right? That's at 4:30 on ABC on Saturday. And, hey, we're going to be right back. We're going to talk about our upcoming season, our schedule, and the Aggies, the New Mexico State Aggies from the land of the Breaking Bad. That's coming up next, right here on the Podcast Coug.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the PodcastCoug Radio Network. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at podcastcoug.com.
Welcome back to the second half of the Podcast Coug. I am James Laurie, the Podcast Coug, where all things are Cougar football, all things Coug football. We're going to give you a breakdown, a kind of a game-by-game breakdown this season on our 19 schedule. Obviously, opening up Saturday, New Mexico State, 7 o'clock night game. Lobos, 3-9 last season, played in one bowl game in 58 years. One bowl game. That was in 2017. And so the Lobos, New Mexico State, that's the Breaking Bad. Anybody know Breaking Bad, right? They just finished a movie, right? And it's going to be on Netflix. And it's going to be coming up real soon, I think in October. So if you're a Breaking Bad fan, there you go. If you don't know anything what I'm talking about, forget it. Next. Should be a good game on Saturday. Confidence building for all of our players, including Gordon, right? Gordon is going to light it up, and hopefully maybe we'll see some Gubrud in the fourth quarter. Maybe not, though. Leach usually likes to, he might put Gubrud in the last 4 minutes. But I can't recall putting the backup quarterback in for the entire fourth quarter. I don't mean to be cocky. I'm not saying that it's going to be a 58-10 blowout. I'm just saying, right? Okay, just saying. We are loaded up with talent. And so that it is what it is, right? Game 2, Northern Colorado, the Bears coming in for an afternoon game the following Saturday, September 7th. The Bears of the Big Sky. They've gone 5-16 in the last 2 seasons. Should be another boat race. A great game, afternoon game. I love those 2 o'clock kickoffs, especially for people like us on the west side. It makes it so much more enjoyable. Those night games are brutal, right? So we've got September 13th, the Houston Cougars, the nationally televised ESPN. It's the Cougs and the Cougars. Right. And so they fired their coach last year after a 70-14 bowl game loss. Wow. Over Army, right? Houston finished 8-5 last year, and they had a 7-1 start, but they hired Dana Holgorsen, new coach. And actually, Holgorsen coached under Leach at Texas Tech. Should be fun with the on the Houston game. That'd be a lot of fun to be down there as well, or watch it on the national stage. Then we've got. Then we also have, right after that is UCLA on the 21st, September. Cougs have won the past 2 games against the Bruins. Last time they played was 2017. It's Chip Kelly's, that was his first season. Bruins went 3-9 last year on Chip Kelly's first season. So real disappointing for Chip Kelly. We've done well with UCLA lately. So no longer an intimidating opponent. And let's hope we can transition that over to USC as well as far as our mindset. We've got Utah, the Utes, on Game 5. That's going to be a tough game with the Utes. And they're ranked right now 14. Preseason means nothing, though. But, Cougs have, I think we've taken Utah the last four meetings in a row. So, right? Arizona State, both teams have an extra week to prepare. They're both coming off on a bye week that time. Arizona State, we haven't played them since 2016. And we've won the last 2 games against the Sun Devils, right? Colorado is Colorado. It's homecoming for the Cougs. And we've beaten Colorado the last 2 meetings. So Colorado has a new coach, Mel Tucker, after McIntyre got fired during their disappointing 5-7 season last year. Then it's Oregon, down in Eugene, the Ducks. We've got 4 straight over Oregon. Oregon's got a Washington State problem, and we've got a dog problem. So last year, game day, the historical game day, never forget 4:30 in the morning, the darkness. It was amazing, absolutely incredible. And halftime against the Ducks, 27-0 at halftime. Final score 34-20 on College game day in October. That was a day we'll never, ever, ever forget. Then it's the Berkeley boys. We got an extra week that's coming off of a bye for Berkeley. And, Cal won in 2017. They're always a tough opponent. We have our Apple Cup meltdowns, but it is tough to beat Berkeley in the Leach era. Let's hope we've got another victory over Cal. Then we've got Stanford. We've won the last 3 games against Stanford, but they're always close, right? Then it's Oregon State, and we've got 5 in a row against Oregon State, likely to make it 6. Then it's the AC in Montlake. Cougs don't need to be reminded that we have lost 6 Apple Cups in a row, mostly by blowout. Last year, Gardner couldn't see 3 feet ahead of him. If you're running an air raid offense and you are in the snow or rain, that didn't help at all. But hey, we just don't show up. We got to change that mindset. We got to change it totally and get over the hurdle, right? And so and I think it's going to come down again to the North Division in Seattle. Big, huge game again at the end of the year. So here we have New Mexico State. They're coming in to Pullman. They're probably traveling. Today is Thursday. And starting off on our 2019 season. Can't believe it. Martin Stadium, 7 o'clock. And, it's 32-point favorite. And so what did the Aggies do last year as an FBS independent? So, which is really interesting. They had their 3rd bowl appearance in program history with a disappointing 3-9 season last year. New Mexico State, they've defeated just one FBS school. That was UTEP last year. And so anyway, that's going to be, it is what it is, right? So likely, of course, it's going to be a boat race. That's, we just, as a Power 5 school, we just got every physical advantage over the New Mexico States and the Northern Colorados. It's just simple as that. We know we can be reminded with Portland State and Eastern Washington. I think we're just so well geared up. I mean, everything, just offensively, the machine. I mean, we've got so many advantages: speed, quickness. Our quarterbacks, our receivers are just. Are you kidding me? They're just. It's just incredibly. Our receivers are amazing, right? So it's freaking. It really is. So these are going to be great experience for our team, and just, keep the penalties in check, fewer penalties. It's going to be a good one. And, so Big Sky, we've got a huge margin over Big Sky, 254 over 94. And New Mexico State's defense is one of the worst at the FBS level last year. So anyway, it's the first time that Washington State has ever played New Mexico State. That is surprising. So some more facts about the Aggies, right? So last year, under the head coach, Doug Martin, New Mexico State, is looking at their, first season opener since 2014. And, that year in 2014, they had 2 straight wins over Cal Poly and then Georgia. So Georgia State. New Mexico State returned 17 starters from last year, including 8 on the offensive side, right? Redshirt sophomore quarterback Josh Atkins is going to be leading the Aggies. And then they've got running back Jason Huntley, who literally led the nation last year in 3 kickoff returns. So pretty amazing. They are explosive in some areas, and they're bringing back some defense guys, 9 starters on defense from last year. So it's going to be, again, it is what it is. It's New Mexico State, and it's going to be a great game on Saturday, and that is at 7:00. Remember that Oregon game against Auburn starts at 4:30 on ABC. Our game is Pac-12 Network. So that is it. Now, there is a little bit of a connection here. The Aggies quarterback coach, Chase Holbrook, spent 2016 season at Washington State in a quality control offensive mode, working under Leach. So their quarterbacks coach has worked for Leach in Pullman, and their offensive line coach, Mason Miller, worked in the same capacity under Hal Mummy. That's really interesting. So they've got some things going on. Prediction, I say Washington State 48, New Mexico State 14. Right? So, hey, that's it for episode 1 of season 4 of the Podcast Coug. Have a great Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Have a great Saturday. And we're going to talk to you next week, and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the Podcast Coug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the Podcast Coug Radio Network. Find us at PodcastCoug.com.